Welcome to the official opening of the 2021 World Water Day celebration. Good greetings, excellencies, ministers, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sasha Ku-Oshima, the Deputy Director of the Land and Water Division at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. It's my pleasure to serve as Master of Ceremonies for today's event. The theme of the 2021 World Water Day is valuing water. First, a few logistics matters. Interpretation is available in the 6 official UN languages, which can be selected from the bottom bar of the Zoom window. I recommend that you set your language right now. All participants are muted, and if you have comments, questions, or technical issues, please write it in the chat box. The session is being recorded and will be posted on FAO and FAO Land and Water as well as UN Water websites after the event. With those matters addressed, let's move into our program. We're pleased to have with us today FAO Director General Dr. Chu Dongyu to offer welcoming remarks for today's World Water Day 2021 ceremony. Director General Chu, the floor is yours. 请开始发言。
谢谢。Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for FAO to host this high-level event to mark World Water Day 2021. And I welcome our distinguished speakers. Values water, the theme of this year, is highly relevant. I just said, no water, no life, no water, no civilization to continue. The diverse the perspective we will hear today show the multidimensional value of water across sectors, culture, religions of our blue planet. Safeguarding water means safeguarding humanity. Succeeding in this critical task depends on a number of elements. Good governance, which is based on inclusiveness, transparency, accountability to manage interdependence and trade-offs. Cross-sectors coordination mechanism for policy coherence at all levels. Modern technologies to optimize water usage and big data to offer the best scientific advice available. Broad partnerships that are built on trust and mutual benefit, and human capacity development. Education at large to mainstream responsible water use, and they also consider water is not only commodities. It's also unrepeatable resources for our life. Ladies and gentlemen, FAO's 2020 State of Food and Agricultural Flagship Report on the overcoming water challenges in agricultural states that the life of over 1 billion people are severely constrained by water scarcity or water shortages. Intensify water strengthen food security, nutrition, and the required agent actions. Population growth, changing diets will increase water needs, intensify competition among water users. insufficient and reliable access to the water impedes the livelihoods of many millions of small-scale farmers, fishers, and herders. Challenges in the access to water and increased pollution are seen all around the food supply chain, including food processing, affecting food security, nutrition, health, and ecosystem services, and posing major risks to the vulnerable populations. FAO is working with members and partners to create a stronger and more resilient rural community, addressing water scarcity, improve the livelihood opportunities, and sustain ecosystems. FAO's global framework on water scarcity partnership program accelerates joint actions to cope with water scarcity in agriculture and in a changing climate. FAO Water Productivity Portal uses open access to remotely sensed data to assist the members monitor on water production and also reduce water stress. Our hand-in-hand geospatial platform contains a rich set of data on food, agriculture, social, economic, and natural resources to help the strengthen evidence-based decision-making. The platform provides vital information to monitor agricultural water productivity, including agricultural systems at risk due to the human pressure on land and water, to ascertain aquatic species distribution. Ladies and gentlemen, water is an essential element for every aspect of development, for better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and better life. We need to create a synergy by joining hands and work together. We need the ingenuity of private sector, driving a civil society, and solidarity international community. In that aspect, I'm delighted that the Green Climate Fund Board has just approved an FAO-led project of $33 million to scale up the adaptation process on climate resilient water management for food security in Jordan last Friday. One of the most water scarcity countries in the world. So let's lead by good examples and good demonstrations. Let us value every drop of the water, keep our planet blue and clean. Let us make every day what day. And also appreciate the Mr. Humboldt join us celebration. And common mission, we work together. Thank you.
Many thanks to Director General Chu for his welcome. We will now hear a pre-recorded video message from Ms. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we watch the Perseverance rover explore Mars, we are reminded that water is an essential, fundamental, necessary condition for all forms of life. And indeed, water is our most precious resource, a blue gold that we must protect for the good of humanity. A blue gold to which 2.2 billion people lack access worldwide. And the situation is likely to get worse as a result of climate change, the collapse of biodiversity, and rising demand. If we do nothing, by 2030, we will face a 40% shortfall in terms of the water we require to meet our needs. When water becomes scarce, the consequences are always serious, amplifying inequalities and affecting vulnerable populations in particular. In slums, for instance, water costs up to 20 times more than in areas where it can be accessed through public networks. Water is essential for health, for our survival, as the current pandemic has clearly shown. Yet, 45% of the global population and 40% of health institutions do not have access to essential sanitation facilities. Difficulties in accessing water can also be measured in terms of educational and economic losses. An estimated 443 million days of school are lost every year due to water-related illnesses. Once again, the consequences of insufficient access to drinking water weigh more heavily on girls and women because they are the ones who mostly bear the burden of fetching and managing water. The 200 million hours they spend on this course every day are lost opportunities to learn, to read, to work, or to stay informed. As this shows, all the traits of our societies, and especially their inequalities, are reflected and amplified by water, or the lack thereof. If water is the mirror of humanity, the only one of the four elements in which we can see ourselves, according to the French philosopher Gaston Bachelard, it is certainly a merciless one. It is this mirror that each year UNESCO and the UN Water Family hold up to the international community when they publish together the World Water Development Report. This year, the report, coordinated by the UNESCO World Water Assessment Programme in Perugia in Italy, focuses on the value of water, reminding us that water cannot be reduced to its price or to its technical and economic attributes. Instead, we must consider the different dimensions of water, including its ecosystemic, social, cultural value, so underestimated and so poorly quantified. We must consider that water is a global common good that is necessary for nature, not a commodity. I would like to thank all of the report's contributors, as well as the government of Italy and the Regione Umbria for supporting its publication. I also wish to thank the entire UN Water family, and very particularly the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, which organized this launch on the occasion of World Water Day. This day also reminds us that there can be no sustainable water management without a close international cooperation. I thank you.
Many thanks to Director General Azoulay. And now I invite Mr. Gilbert Bombo, Chair of UN Water and President of International Fund for Agriculture Development, to offer his opening remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the World Water Day 2021. I'm speaking here both in my role as chair of UN Water, as well as president of IFAD. So it's really a great pleasure for me to be here with all of you to celebrate this day and to launch the UN World Water Development Report on valuing water. First, let me thank FAO for hosting today's event and also for leading on behalf of UN Water this year's World Water Day task force together with the International Federation of the Private Water Operators and the Public Sector Public Services International. IFAD is also proud to contribute to this year's campaign. This year, the World Water Day campaign asks us to answer one simple question. What does water mean to you? And, you know, for me, water means life. We are 60% water, and our health and well-being depend on water. The poor rural producers that IFAD works with also depend heavily on water for their lives and their livelihoods, which is why indeed 61% of all our IFAD projects have a water component. The food we eat, the safety of our communities, and the integrity of the natural environment all depend on clean, safe, and accessible water. Of course, the way I personally value water may not be the way you do, yet behind every opinion lies the same fact. Water is fundamental to life and to livelihoods. But to safeguard water for everyone and everything, policymakers need to understand the complexity of how people perceive and value water. So the aim of this year's World Water Day campaign was to capture as many different views as possible. By listening to people around the world, a range of themes have emerged, and these include the critical role of water that water has in health and hygiene, water as a human right, the impact of climate change on water, concerns about water scarcity, etc. People also mention the need for political and personal action to improve the management of water resources. These are themes also analyzed in this year's edition of the UN World Water Development Report. And the insights in this report will be invaluable as we work toward water and sanitation for all by 2030. So I would like to thank everyone behind the publication and give a special thanks to UNESCO for publishing the report on behalf of UN Water and its World Water Assessment Program for coordinating the production of said reports. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, we have no time to lose because we know we are seriously off track in our commitment to meet the SDG 6. So we must accelerate progress. In some areas, such as ensuring countries have operational agreements for water cooperation, we must even move 8 times faster if we really want to get close to achieve our objective by 2030. The plans are in place. Working through the SDG 6 Global Acceleration Framework, we can respond to the need of people and the need of the planet. Anything less is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. So let me wish you all a happy World Water Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huangbo, UN Water Chair and President of IFAD, for your inspiring words. We all know water is essence of life, and now to comment on this precious and indeed this holy resource, we welcome His Eminence Cardinal Parolin to share a special message from His Holiness Pope Francis.
A Su Excelencia el Doctor.
Your Excellency, Dr. Kyu Dongyu, Director General of FAO. Your Excellency, Dr. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO. Excellencies, I am honored to extend to you my warmest greetings also on behalf of the Holy Father on the occasion of World Water Day 2021. The theme chosen for this year, Valuing Water, invites us to be more responsible in protecting and using this element which is so crucial to the preservation of our planet. Indeed, without water there would be no life, no towns and no agricultural, forest or livestock production. For all that, the water resource has not received the care and attention it deserves. Wasting it, neglecting it and polluting it is a mistake, but one which persists to this very day. Moreover, even in the 21st century, in the age of technological advance and progress, not everyone has access to safe, drinkable water. The Holy Father reminds us that water is a basic and universal human right, a condition for the exercise of other human rights, something to which every human being without exception is entitled to have decent access in order to be able to live a dignified life. And thus, our world has a grave social debt towards the poor who lack access to drinking water because they are denied the right to a life consistent with their inalienable dignity. The harmful effects of climate change only serve to compound this sad reality. Floods, drought, rising temperatures, sudden and unexpected variation in rainfall, melting of ice, drops in river flow, and depletion of groundwater. All of these phenomena undermine and impair the quality of water and thereby hamper a calm, productive life. The spread of the throwaway culture and the globalization of indifference only make things worse, prompting people to feel they are entitled to pillage and drain resources. And let's not forget the current health crisis, which has increased existing social and economic inequalities, highlighting the damage caused by the lack or inefficiency of water services for the most needy. With all those in mind who today are lacking such an essential good as is water, as well as the generations to come, I call on everyone to work to put an end to the pollution of our seas and rivers, our underground streams and our springs, by educating towards a change in lifestyle, seeking goodness, truth, beauty, and communion with our fellow human beings for the sake of the common good. This should be the mindset that determines our consumption, savings, and investment choices. Valuing water, to quote this year's theme, means therefore changing our own language. Rather than consumption, we should be talking of reasonable use of water, according to our real needs and in respect of those of others. Because if someone enjoys a surplus of water, yet chooses to conserve it for the sake of the greater human family, the Holy Father tells us, it is because they have attained a moral stature that allows them to look beyond themselves. If we live simply and put solidarity at the focus, we will make rational use of water without pointlessly squandering it, and we will be able to share it with those who need it most. For example, if we protect the wetlands, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, allow smallholder farmers to irrigate, and enhance the resilience of rural areas, the low-income communities that are the most vulnerable in terms of water supply would benefit and could shake off their struggle and oblivion. Valuing water can also mean recognizing that food security and water quality are intrinsically linked one with another. Indeed, the water resource plays an essential role throughout our food systems in the production, processing, preparation, consumption, and to some extent the distribution of foodstuffs. Access to drinking water and decent sanitation reduces the risk of food contamination and the spread of contagious diseases that affect people's health and nutritional status. Indeed, many, maybe even the majority of foodborne diseases stem from the poor quality of the water used in production, processing, and preparation. To guarantee fair access to water, it is crucial to act with no further ado to end once and for all its waste, commodification, and contamination. Cooperation between states, between the public and private sectors is more essential than ever, as is increasing initiatives from intergovernmental organizations. Equally pressing is the need for binding legal cover and systematic and effective support to ensure that drinking water reaches every corner of the planet in sufficient quantity and quality. Let us therefore hasten to give water to the thirsty. Let us correct our lifestyles so that they neither squander nor pollute. Let us become protagonists of that goodness that led to St. Francis of Assisi to describe water as a sister that is so humble, precious, and chaste. These aims I entrust to the Almighty, that He may help us to achieve them as we do of our best. Thank you.
Many thanks to His Eminence, Cardinal Parolin, for delivering the message of His Holiness in guiding us for our collective action on clean water and sanitation. From His Holiness' message to voices around the world, I would like to present a video animation, What Does Water Mean to You? Expressions conveyed from young and old, assembled via the World Water Day digital campaign.
L'eau, pour moi, المياه بالنسبة لي. الagua para mí.
Water to me is life.
Humans, animals, plants all depend on water.
Water to me, well, it's everything.
It's our food, our energy, and even the clothes that we wear.
Water to me is a scarce resource. We need to use new technologies for rational use and water conservation.
We need to recycle used water to reduce water scarcity.
Water is fundamental to grow and produce our food.
We need to produce more with less water.
Water to me is fun. I like to play and swim in the water.
Water to me means sustainability. It keeps life on our planet in balance.
We need to keep the water clean to have a healthy life.
Water to me is a human right.
In my region, people struggle to get water.
We need to distribute water evenly and make it accessible to everyone.
We need to preserve water for the life of our planet. We have to start now.
We will always need water.
Ladies, gentlemen, joining us live from Bolivia, I would like now to invite our special guest, His Excellency, Mr. David Choquehuanca, Vice President of the Plurinational State of Bolivia. Welcome, sir. We have just watched the expression conveyed by people around the world on water. Will you share with us what does value of water mean to you in terms of market and non-market values? The floor is yours.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. For our peoples, for the culture of life, water is priceless. The true value of water is not something which can be expressed in market terms. Water is life, and as such the value of water doesn't lie in its commercial use, but rather in its capacity to create life. Life is the source of value, the base of all other values. And this means that if we attach a price to water, we are attaching a price to life. And if we attach a price to life, we believe ourselves to be above life. Without water, there can be no life. Trees, woods, plants, fauna, air, food, humanity itself would all disappear. Water is the very lifeblood of our planet, the milk of our Mother Earth that feeds all life forms. We are deeply concerned by the dangerous trend towards commodifying water, attaching a price to it, seeing water as a natural capital, a commodity In other words, a good to be quoted on the stock exchange. And that is why we join our voice to that of the United Nations in expressing our concern and speaking out against a global trend which is continuing and gaining ground under the ideology of the green economy, which proposes that water should be quoted on the market and be assigned a price, not only in the context of current supply and demand, but also in terms of the so-called financial derivatives. This suicidal tendency to want to make everything a commodity will merely deepen the crisis threatening the existence of our planet and our Mother Earth. Making water a commodity, privatizing it, commoditizing it, would trigger an unprecedented collapse of civilization worldwide, which, amongst other things, would mean that water, which is life, becomes a resource causing disputes and conflict, which would mean death. The commoditization of water would mean more hunger and exclusion, more poverty, more conflict. We are dramatically seeing now the migratory flows of refugees fleeing hunger, the climate crisis, and wars. This would be made even worse by the exponential generalization of water refugees, the water displaced and water excluded. The big question that should be on all of our minds is how we can make headway in strengthening a binding global rules for the inalienable human right, the right of every human and living being to water. Let's remember the headway that's been made, the Declaration of the Human Right to Water, and let's go even further towards recognizing the Mother Earth's right to safe and healthy water. Bolivia played a crucial role in building declarations and resolutions on the human right to water. We managed to convince the United Nations General Assembly in 2010 to explicitly recognize the human right to water and sanitation. This declaration constitutes a historic milestone at global level, since it opened the door to later resolutions, declarations and agreements flagging up the importance of water as a human right. But all of this headway would suffer. There will be backtracking, undermining of our civilizations, if certain powers with great influence continue to commoditize water. That's why we feel it is an obligation upon us to guarantee universal and fair access to the basic services of drinking water and sanitation. It is our duty to manage, regulate, protect and plan the appropriate, universal and sustainable use of water resources on a democratic participation-based basis, guaranteeing access to water to everyone who depends on this vital resource. As the water beings that we are, that emerge from the belly of our Mother Earth, thinking from the sacred source of life that is water, from inside our earth, from Tiwanaku, from the culture of life, we propose working towards water democracy and working to establish a specialized international water mechanism in the United Nations in order to protect and make water even healthier. Long live the peoples of the world.
Thank you, Excellency Mr. David Choquehuanca, Vice President of the Plurinational State of Bolivia. And now I would like to introduce a pre-recorded video message from His Excellency Mr. Serine Mbaye Thiam, Minister of Water and Sanitation of the Republic of Senegal.
Sa Sainteté le Pape,
His Holiness Director General of FAO, Director General of UNESCO, President of IFAD, and President of UN Water, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, participants all. At a time in which the world is disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the organizers of the World Water Day are reminding us of the importance that the international community must attach to water, organizing this celebration on World Water Day, it's important for us to realize that without water, there is no life. It is the vital source of life. Water is necessary to maintain the equilibrium of our planet. It is necessary to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Development Agenda, but it's more in general necessary for peace, for health, security. The COVID-19 pandemic, the negative impact of climate change on the availability of water and on human security all require us to give greater importance to water, a central role in sustainable development. And therefore, today and tomorrow, we must work for a change in paradigm and a holistic approach to water management issues, to be able to provide tangible results to this global challenge, which is water availability and sanitation. And Senegal is very pleased to be able to contribute to the World Water Day. And in March 2022, we will be welcoming the 9th World Seminar for Water on the theme of peace and development. And the important organization of this meeting in this very special occasion, these special times, will give us a chance to rethink the major challenges we're facing today in the great post-COVID recovery phase. And that is why trying to support a new dynamic and fruitful partnerships to achieve the SDGs, President Macky Sall of Senegal has thought to organize during the forum a summit of heads of state and government, bringing together also the major international organizations to take what will be historic commitments to strengthen our actions for the prompt achievement of access to water and sanitation in Africa and in the world. And in this regard, we invite UN Water to consider this 9th Global Summit as a landmark in its roadmap and to take into account the outcomes of this forum in the United Nations Mid-Term Review Conference, which will be held in 2023 on the implementation of the objectives of the Decade of Water for Sustainable Development 2018-2028. I would like also, on behalf of President Macky Sall, the President of the host country of the 9th Forum, I would like to invite you to participate in the preparatory process and the organization of this forum. I hope that this forum, with your support, will contribute effectively to building a better world, a world based on solidarity, a world characterized by resilience, a world that will help people along their path. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you every success.
Many thanks to His Excellency Mr. Thiam, the Minister of Water and Sanitation of the Republic of Senegal, and we look forward to the World Water Forum in Senegal in 2022. And now I'd like to introduce a pre-recorded video message from Her Excellency Ms. Marina Sereni, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy.
Dear Director Chu, dear Director Azoulay, dear President Umbo, I am sincerely pleased to intervene in this high-level event. The message of His Holiness Pope Francis demonstrates once again the ecumenical importance of valuing water, as the 2021 report clearly emphasizes. Italy has been traditionally engaged in fostering international cooperation on the use of water. Water indeed plays a strategic role on the global stage with direct links to some of our biggest challenges, such as food security, rural development, climate change, and the new green economy. An effective management of water resources requires an integrated approach. Italy considers such an approach as crucial in order to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, in line with the principles and values that we share within the UN system. A fruitful dialogue between different actors is required for innovative solutions and for the mobilization of public and private actions in order to promote better water resource quality and sustainability. Indeed, this aspect and overall the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals enshrined in Agenda 2030 are at the basis of Italy's decision to set the planet as one of the three priorities of our current presidency of the G20. Our long-term commitment to all issues and challenges concerning water is testified by Italy's contributions and strong support to the UNESCO World Water Assessment Programme in Perugia. The WWAP is in charge of the UN World Water Development Report, which provides an authoritative picture of the state, use and management of the world's freshwater resource. This global assessment is indeed crucial, since the growing global water crisis threatens everyone's security, stability and environmental sustainability, with particular regards to the developing nations. We are committed to exploring possible avenues to increase the visibility and impact of the program and its reports. To make it possible, we provided an important contribution, not only in terms of human resources, science and research, but also in terms of financial resources. Italy attaches the highest importance to the UNESCO membership, and indeed our support to the WWAP should be seen as yet another example of the active support that Italy provides to UNESCO. I am deeply convinced that this program plays a key role in fostering international awareness on the importance of water resources. I thank you for your attention and I wish you a fruitful discussion.
Many thanks to Vice Minister Sereni. And now please welcome our next guest, His Excellency Mr. Jonathan Malagon Gonzalez, Minister of Housing, Cities and Territory of the Republic of Colombia.
Muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning, all. I am speaking to you from Colombia, and I'd like to start by thanking you on behalf of our national government for having invited us to this dialogue on one of the most important, most crucial issues of social policy in Latin America, which is the preservation of our water resources. And I'll start by thanking the other panel members, Ms. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, and Mr. Gilbert Hongbo, Director Chu Dong-yu, Director General of FAO, and our host, of course, Mr. Gilbert Hongbo, Chair of UN Water and President of IFAD. In the last 3 decades in Latin America, what we've seen from the point of water is quite impressive. Up until 1990, we had water and sanitation coverage under 40%. Now we are closer to 83%. In Colombia, we are doing very important work in this area to move forward in our agenda, trying to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals even before the 2030, because the crisis that we're facing now in humanity linked to the COVID-19 pandemic can lead to a delay in investments, but it has also reinforced our understanding of the great importance of water in our social policy. So we're doing 3 things, basically. The first is that we have, in the last few years, under the leadership of our President Ivan Duque, we have differentiated patterns that help us reach the most difficult areas to access, where people who do not yet have access to water are living. The second thing is we recognize the importance of this agenda in our budgetary appropriations. We have about 200 billion pesos a year to invest in water projects. And finally, the Congress has adopted resources that are 5 times our past average, 5 times, 5-fold increase in appropriations. So we are a country that already is investing a lot, about $115 billion, investment in new projects to increase water coverage. But this is the greatest increase we've ever had in this budget line in what is a very difficult time from the point of view of our budget. And in Colombia, as a country, we have been able to benefit from the international context to leverage our investments in water. So to summarize, Colombia is a country that is learning from the world, that is confirming the importance of water in development and in our budgetary appropriations. And we are making progress. We have a very advanced approach to water in the emerging world. And so we are creating a regulatory framework that can accelerate our agenda for the provision of drinking water and water services to the population that don't have it yet. So I'd like to conclude with a message of gratitude, of thanks. It's very important that we are celebrating this World Water Day every year. And this is the best opportunity for us to share experience, and also as a government, as multilateral entities, a great opportunity for us to remind everyone that this is one of the core issues of our social policy and key to achieving the 2030 Agenda. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to His Excellency Minister Malagon Gonzalez for his remarks. And I will now like to introduce Mr. Henk Ovink, Special Envoy on International Water Affairs from the Kingdom of Netherlands, for his message on the World Water Day.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Umbo, Mr. Q, it's a pleasure to address you on behalf of the Kingdom of the Netherlands on this World Water Day. This year's theme is valuing water, and it couldn't be more relevant. Wash your hands frequently. It's as simple and effective in stopping the coronavirus spreading. Yet 3/4 of households in the developing world are unable to follow this rule. Clean water, the first line of defense against COVID-19, is out of reach for far too many people. And this will only get worse. With population and economic growth, demand for water continues to rise. And climate change is playing havoc with our water cycle, disrupting weather systems and rainfall patterns that deliver either too much or too little. In our national climate change plans, water projects hardly figure at all. In 2018, water projects attracted less than 2% of the $546 billion climate finance. This falls far short of the $1 trillion the World Bank estimates needed over the next 10 years. Just as water is key to our fight against COVID-19, it is also key to our recovery and key to every bit of climate action. If we want to build back better, we need to build back bluer. Water is the connecting thread linking the myriad impacts of our health and climate crisis. And leveraging every value of water across all 17 Sustainable Development Goals, water is the enabler, the driving force for best solutions. That is our reason to be hopeful. And that is also why the Netherlands hosted the Climate Adaptation Summit in January, and now with our partners helps prepare waterproof NDCs and strengthen blue pipelines for climate action. We all know that water deserves a greater share of climate and development finance, that we need to value water accordingly. And this cannot happen without becoming radically inclusive, without the participation of all governments, scientists, civil society, indigenous peoples, and perhaps most important, women and youth. That is why the Valuing Water Initiative, as a central outcome of the High-Level Panel on Water, systemically works with young people across the world. Putting water at the center is by having youth at the table. The Valuing Water Finance Task Force is working with investors worldwide to drive corporate action, and they understand that in a world without fresh water, food production stops, cities cease to function, and economic activity grinds to a halt. They know we need to act now. In 2 years from now, Together with Tajikistan, the Netherlands will co-host the UN Water Conference in 2023. We will seek to apply the lessons of the Valuing Water initiative to strengthen global, regional and local partnerships. The coming years must become a blue turning point for governments, companies and communities. I hope I will stand here in 2023 and be able to say that we recovered faster, better and bluer, harnessing the multiple values of water for a secure and sustainable future for all. Thank you.
Many thanks to Mr. Ovank for his words that we must act now. And here we conclude a high-level opening segment. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we launched the much-awaited World Water Development Report now in this segment with the theme of valuing water for 2021. I welcome Ms. Michela Mileto, Coordinator and Director of UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, who will present the report on behalf of UN Water. Ms. Mileto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sasha. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon. I'm very pleased to present to you the 2021 edition of the United Nations World Water Development Report, titled Valuing Water. The report assesses the current status and challenges to the evaluation of water across different sectors and perspectives, identifying ways in which valuation can be promoted as a tool to improve its management and achieve global sustainable development. The WWDR is the UN Water flagship report on water and sanitation. Published by UNESCO on behalf of UN Water, its production is led by the UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, who coordinates the contributions of the members and partners of UN Water. The 2021 edition is the result of the concerted effort of the UN agencies listed here, with the contributions and inputs of several other UN Water partners. Next, please. Water is a finite resource that carries multiple values and benefits. There are several perspectives of what values means to user groups and stakeholders, as well as there are many different methods for calculating value and different metrics to express it. In the case of water, there is no clear relationship between its cost, its price, and its value. Where consumers are charged, the price of water often reflects attempt for cost recovery and not the value delivered. Next, please. The report describes methodologies and approaches to the evaluation of water through 5 interrelated perspectives: valuing water sources and the ecosystems, water infrastructures, water services, mainly drinking water and sanitation, water for production and socio-economic activities such as food and agriculture, energy and industry, and other social cultural values of water, including recreational, cultural, and spiritual attributes. Next. The source of all water is the environment. The environment has important values that should not be constrained or defined by monetary-based approaches. For example, many disaster risks are exacerbated by the loss of relevant ecosystem services, as these resilience-enhancing and risk-reducing services played a role in preventing disaster in the first place. The value of these services can be calculated, but they are often not recognized or adequately included in the economic planning. Next. The value of water to society is underpinned by hydraulic infrastructure. In spite of the large sums of money invested in water infrastructure, the valuation of cost and benefits are not well developed, standardized, or widely applied. Most methods of valuing water infrastructure center on a cost-benefit approach, but there is a tendency to overestimate benefits and underestimate cost. One of the most critical questions is value to whom? Valuations tend to excessively focus on target beneficiaries, while other stakeholders may benefit less or even be negatively impacted. Next, please. The role of water within households, schools, workplace, and healthcare facilities is often overlooked or not assigned a value comparable with other uses. While we know that hand hygiene is and will be extremely important to prevent the spread of pandemics like COVID-19, there are still over 3 billion people that lack adequate access to hand hygiene facilities. Next. The value of water to agriculture, industry, business, and energy can be assessed through an economic input-output perspective that variously quantify the returns or benefits, such as employment, product value per unit of water, or product value added. Next. However, even with different economic sectors, these parameters often fail to easily provide a complete value of water. Taking the example from agriculture, the value assigned to water is usually very low comparatively to the food security value of water, which is instead definitely high, but rarely quantified. Next. Energy, industry, and business sectors are highly focused on monetization. The most straightforward monetary valuation is volumetric. By applying circular economy, we can value water many times or in different ways to the extent that each liter is reused again and again. Next. Cultures generate values of water and directly influences how they are perceived, derived, and used. These intangible values are not quantifiable, but they can nevertheless be regarded amongst the highest of water's values. Next. Then there are multiple values of water which need to be reconciled and the trade-offs between them resolved and incorporated into systematic and inclusive planning and decision-making processes. Indeed, this can be done through more integrated and holistic approaches to gender-responsive governance with active participation of a more diverse set of actors. Through innovative approaches to financing, maximizing the value of water in investment decisions requires a careful valuation of the cost and benefits that a project provides. For these, all benefits needs to be taken into account, including those that are economic, social, and environmental. The price of water, its cost of delivery, and its value are not synonymous, and price is merely one tool for aligning water's use with its values. And finally, it can be done through advanced methods to address knowledge, research, and capacity needs. Water data indeed are central to understanding and valuing the resource, as well as data relating to social, economic, and environmental demands and uses for water. Next. Unlike most other natural resources, it has proven extremely difficult to determine water true value. As such, the overall importance of this vital resource is not often reflected in political attention and financial investment in many parts of the world. This not only leads to inequalities in access to water resources and water-related services, but also to inefficient and unsustainable use and degradation of water supplies themselves, and affected the fulfillment of the basic human rights. The way forward, therefore, will be to further develop common approaches to valuation where feasible, but also to prioritize improved approaches to compare, contrast, and merge different values, and to incorporate fair and equitable conclusions into improved policy and planning, fundamental to achieving sustainable and equitable water resources management and the goals of the Agenda 2030. Next. And with this, I conclude my presentation, and I thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Ms. Mileta, for the World Water Development Report presentation. I now welcome Mr. Neil Dott, Executive Director of the International Federation of Private Water Operators, AquaFed, to moderate the interactive discussion on what water means to you. Neil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the 1,300 participants that we have today. That's absolutely awesome. So thank you very much for joining. I was about to say Happy World Water Day, and I still say that, but I was struck by a comment by a young lady called Guta Hegarty, who actually I know from Twitter, who said, well, should we really be happy? We still have so many issues. I agree with you, Guta, but let me try and make you a little bit more happy in the next few minutes, or at least give you some hope, I think. Let me try. So I'm going to do two things. I'm briefly going to explain to you what this listening exercise was all about and what we discovered. Then we have a short discussion with three excellent panelists, which I'm very much looking forward to. So let's get straight into it. So next slide, please. So what was the listening exercise? Well, let me first of all start by thanking UN Water, actually, because this was something different and a bit bold in UN terms and a bit daring, giving AquaFed and PSI the kind of power to try and do something differently. But what we essentially wanted to do was have a two-way communication with users this time and ask them about how they value water. I think we felt that we could predict mostly what stakeholders and UN agencies would kind of say at a high level, but we wanted to ask users, and we did it through a social media campaign, #WaterToMe, and we asked people on social media, how is water important to you in your home, with your family, to your livelihood, cultural practices, well-being, and your environment. And it was fascinating, and these voices have actually been collated into a short summary, which is also available today, and perhaps someone might put that in the link in the chat shortly. Next slide, please. So just to show there was some rigor behind this exercise, there was 6,000 social media conversations, which I'm told is quite good, 140 million potential impressions, which tells you kind of the scale of this, of the comments that we had. You know, people all over the world, conversations, as you can see in the UN languages, but also I noticed Indian languages, Malayalam, I think I've pronounced that correctly, Hindi, Punjabi, and I saw some other languages as well. We had conversations in 140 countries. So this really was a global kind of movement, a global campaign. And it's really encouraging that 6 of the 20 most engaged countries were in Africa, particularly Nigeria, South Africa, and Tanzania. So that's quite good. So now, what did people tell us? Next slide, please. Right, so a very simple message. And also these are images that people sent us ourselves, and they kind of illustrate this story, really. Protecting water is everyone's responsibility. That came out, that was the top message. And it was this idea that actually responsibility for protecting our water sources is with us as every individual human being. That's where it starts. It wasn't that it's the government's or political responsibility. That was second. But people were telling us we all as individuals have a responsibility to protect our water. So don't pollute it, don't overuse it. The second message that I've heard so many times today already, water is life. Simple message. And in some cases we saw, as you can see in some of the pictures on the right-hand side here, it's a matter of life or death, literally, for many, many people. It's that critical. The human right was the third message, which is encouraging to know that people really do value water as a human right. And it's not just the sector talking about it. Correct. Guta has said that the guy on the right-hand side at the bottom is Mohamed Hami in Tanzania. And he went around the rural communities in Tanzania asking people what water means to them. And the fourth point is kind of fits with what they said. Water is life for the environment and ecosystems. And this is where people like the rural communities in Tanzania were talking about the impacts of climate change without actually using the words climate change. That's something that perhaps they don't know or don't understand, or not the language they use. They were talking about intermittent rainfalls. They were talking about changing weather patterns and just essentially not knowing if they're going to be able to grow their crops. So it's the same point that we make, different language. Finally, no food without water. People, again, very encouragingly understood the link between agriculture and water and the inextricable link there. And people, I think, really also talked about the importance of not wasting food. Next slide, please. All right, very quickly. What else can we conclude? Guta, this is one of the things I hope that will make you happy, as well as the last slide, in that social media is an effective way to understand people's opinions. This was a two-way conversation we had. And I think from my own perspective, I have made so many friends around the world in this campaign by talking to people. I mean, it doesn't matter that my professional background is private sector or whatever. It's not mattered to people. What's mattered is this identical and same objectives. We're talking about the same things. Two-way communication I've mentioned. The language, the third bullet point there, people have the same priorities, but just understand it slightly differently from us. And the last point, people need to be supported to share knowledge and collaborate for positive change. And this was the thing that really struck me about this campaign. People wanted to share knowledge, wanted to talk to each other from all over the world. There is a message from the World Water Development Report, which talks about the political will, and that needs to consider all value sets of water. And then to act on that basis, it says it's critical to necessitate the transformation of political processes and redistribute power and redistribute the voices and empower people more through public awareness and pressure for change. And that is the spirit in which we embarked on this #WaterToMe campaign. And I feel that was pretty successful in doing that. But this is just the start, hopefully, people. Okay, right. With that in mind, I appreciate I talked very quickly. Let's jump straight to the discussion now. Let me very briefly introduce our three very distinguished panelists. Panelists, I'm going to cut your bios short, if that's okay. Forgive me. First, as you may be able to see already, is Euphrasia Luseka, who's a water governance expert and co-lead of the Rural Water Supply Network and the network's Leaving No One Behind theme. Now, Euphrasia is a seasoned water governance expert, 12 years experience in leadership, strategy development and management in the WASH sector, nationally, regionally and internationally, utilities, urban and rural. This lady knows her stuff, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what she has to say. We also have Rasha Hassan, who's also in governance, actually, a coordinator in the governance group of the Water Youth Network. She's been on a PhD program at the University of Barcelona to research drought in the Mediterranean basin. She's a civil engineer, and she's got a master's in environmental systems from the Tishreen University in Syria. And finally, the last one, who needs no introduction, Pedro Orojo, a special rapporteur on human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation, formerly a member of the Spanish Parliament, a professor in the area of fundamentals of economics analysis at the University of Zaragoza, and Professor Emeritus there since 2011. And in 2003, he was awarded the Goldman Environmental Prize for his contribution of conservation to water ecosystems. Right, that's the panel. Let's jump straight into the questions now, panelists. So, Rasha, I'm going to go to you first, if that's okay. And the first question is, the three of you all joined #WaterToMe. You joined the campaign and contributed. Why was it so important for you? Rasha, you might be on mute, unless it's just me that can't hear you. Can we? No, Rasha, we still can't hear you, I'm afraid, my dear. Any chance of with your wire?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me in this key event. Happy World Water Day, everybody. Actually, I would like to split my answer into two parts. The first one is linked to my birthplace and my current location. I come from Latakia, Syria, and I live in Cadiz, Spain. Both locations are coastal cities with high vulnerability to drought. On the other hand, my academic background, career, and also my engagement in youth networks are all in the water sector. My research opened my eyes to the fact that water is a crossing cut issue, which means that this transparent liquid is not only key for our survival, but as a human beings, but also it is integrated in all aspects of our life. In addition, it became my duty to talk about the interlinkages between climate change and water, and how this complexity is affecting the fragile systems with poor water management and may contribute to war, such as Syria. Thus, I always seize all the available opportunities to speak out about all these ideas, and the Water to Me campaign was a significant opportunity. What caught my attention to this campaign was that it was accessible for everyone. So it was easy for young water professionals to participate and share their own perspectives on valuing water. I recommend all the attendees to go and read the hashtag Water to Me on different social media platforms. I would like to highlight a tweet from one of Water Youth Network members. Juanita said, one of the reasons she values water is simply because it is the reason to connect and make true friends. And here she's talking about her experience with Water Youth Network. All in all, Water to Me has been a great channel to convey our voices as young water professionals from different parts of the world. Thank you, Neil, for coordinating this campaign.
Thank you, Rasha. That's excellent. Thank you. Euphrasia, I'm going to turn straight to you now. And why did you join as well? And also, has it been a kind of a power to connect you with others?
Indeed, it has been, Neil. I would say that thrilling it is for us to be able to fulfill our dreams as women in water, and also as leaders, as female leaders in water in such a male-dominated field. However, enabling other women to be able to fulfill their dreams is a more wonderful experience. So for me, the campaign was so important because unfortunately, we have so many women leaders who are doing some recommendable work in terms of advancing the human right to water. Unfortunately, they remain to be uncelebrated. So this was an opportunity for me to be able to bring these other women together and to be able to share their stories and to be able to also tell the world that much as the statistics in terms of women in water leaders is still bleak, we still have something that we can be able to celebrate about as water sector practitioners. And then at the same time, I also wanted to mention that generally having women in leadership, it's not just talk. You know, when you look at the Global Intelligence Report that was shared in 2020, we can see the incredible work that the most powerful women in the water sector are doing. And this starts with Liv Garfield. But for me, I'm really attracted to the African women in this list as well. We have the ministers of water from my own country, Kenya, Cecily Kariuki. We have the Minister of Water from South Africa, Lindiwe Sisula. We have also Desiree coming from Cote d'Ivoire. And this lady is doing such an incredible job. She's even called Mamad Bulldozer. So we have a lot of good work that women are doing, but then at the same time, they are not being recognized enough, or also, again, being given the space to be able to showcase the good work. And particularly for me, the other reason that I was so keen in terms of participating into this campaign was seeing how other women who are also not listed in this list, women like Katarina de Albuquerque, Portia Parsley of the U.S. Agency of International Development, Katarina Fonseca of IRC, Elena Allen of Water for People, and many other women who are coming out strongly to look at the young women in water, to build their capacity, to encourage them to keep on going, because these are our future leaders in the sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frisia, and I cannot agree with you more. I absolutely concur with that. We need these young women like you and Rasha, quite honestly. You are the future, you're the stars, that's why you're here today, and we need you and many mothers like you to carry this work forward. Pedro, can I turn to you, please? Pedro, you actually mentioned gender as one of your key things that you would look at when you embarked on your campaign. You kind of came onto the scene with a huge agenda. Is that something that you are focusing on now, Pedro? And how are you going to empower these young women to really to carry forward the human right?
Well, first of all, I will use my language, Spanish. Please, the privilege to use it. Bueno, en primer lugar, ante todo, quiero agradecer.
First and foremost, I would like everyone involved for the excellent work they have done in this listening exercise. On the women's side of this, and more generally, I think listening to people, particularly those most affected by the problems, can we understand their problems, and only by understanding can we address this global water issue which is being made even worse by climate change. I always insist on the fact that people who suffer the problems may not always be right in everything they propose, but they're certainly the best people to understand the problems they're facing. And obviously after listening, then you urgently have to act. Certainly women are victims, and to a great extent that's one of the things that came across through this global listening exercise. Women as carers for life are those who promote water and sanitation within communities and within families. But although they're victims, I also see them as hugely powerful, active players in the defense and development of the human rights to safe water and sanitation. So I think it's important to attach greater importance to the mainstreaming of the role of women in this challenge of achieving the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you very much for this. I was just looking at the chat, and I think, Euphrasia, you have really started something there, because I saw a huge number of comments saying, kind of virtual high fives to you. I think this is clearly a big issue. And just to say, everyone who's here, there is another discussion straight after this event, or about half an hour after, where we can get into this discussion in more detail, because we are vastly running out of time. Panelists, I think we might just have time for the second question, if that's okay. Rasha, I'm going to come back to you now and ask you, were you surprised at all by the conclusions of the World Water Development Report or the listening exercise? Are they what you expected?
Actually, yes and no. The report was technical and monetary oriented, with a well-detailed plan to integrate multiple water values in the sector. However, I expected to read about water climate change as a challenge that imposes the need to accelerate the efforts to recognizing and embedding the value of water. In my point of view, we need to start acknowledging other water systems like ocean and seas, which are also contribute significantly to the way we value water. As for the listening exercise, here comes the surprise and hope at the same time. I was so moved when I read it because it was so real and in depth. The participants represented most of the world. They were able to depict the multiple values of water and express water interlinkages to each part of our life. and discuss them in a non-technical and simple way. They acknowledged climate change impacts on water, and also talked about other water issues while taking accountability by recognizing that resolving these issues and having healthy water resources are everyone's responsibility. We need to stress on the fact that participants were normally interested almost equally in water and climate change and then sustainability. The exercise showed that all countries still have a long way to reach a better situation in the management of their water resources. Also, it pointed out that it is time to open channels to communicate with water end users and recognize their needs. 2 points I will leave you to think about. Why were 58% of the participants males? The second point is the age group who contributed heavily to this campaign was 45 to 54, which means they are seniors. Why don't we grasp some positive change in the water sector? Is now the right time to start?
Yeah. Rasha, you make a very good point, and I think this is something that Euphrasia is about to mention as well, I have a feeling. The fact that it was men, slightly more, and of a certain age, starting to get at 35 plus. There is a challenge for this sector to appeal to youth properly and talk about in a language that, you know, younger people speak in, and I don't think we are there yet. Euphrasia, talk to us, tell us, what do you think about this question? Were you surprised?
Indeed, I was terribly surprised. I want to pick up the discussion from the statistics that Rasha is giving. I'm glad she has given us the statistics from Asia, and these are again developing countries. And I want to share from the African perspective. I was a little bit disappointed by the fact that when you look at the report, we had approximately 75% of men participating in it. And these again are coming from the African countries and generally the BIPOC countries generally. So for me, I felt a little bit disappointed because I was wondering, where are the women? Given the fact that when you look at the rest of the report, it's really highlighting critically on the nexus between water security and the issues to do with climate change impacts. At the same time, these issues to do with climate change are affecting these developing countries the most. And again, women are affected the most because they're the ones who are interacting with water as a resource. At the same time, these are the future leaders that we are trying to really push the agenda on. So where are they? So for me, at the same time, I would say that the statistics were also kind of a call out for women to be able to step up when they're given these opportunities to come up and bring our voice on the issues that are affecting us with water, and also be able to give some of the solutions that probably can be able to advance the agenda. And I want to quote the words of Kato Kelesitse. She's coming from Botswana. She's a climate change advocate. And she says this, I'm going to read it. Women, take up space in their field of expertise and be loud about it. Their name should be fast to pop into people's minds when they're looking for someone in your field. Humility is costing us money. And that is the truth, ladies. Therefore, I would encourage us to come out and let our stories be told. Let them be loud. Let opportunities be able to find us being ready. Moreover, I was also expecting to hear the voices from the private sector. When you look at the United Nations Environmental Program report that was shared some few years back, they indicated that 3 out of 4 jobs use water heavily or moderately. So if they're using water heavily or moderately, it means that water security issues are really going to affect them in terms of job creation and also basically limit economic growth. So in that regard, I was looking forward to hear their voice on issues to do with water. And it's so interesting that the private sector is interested in women, but they're not interested in the welfare of women. When you look at the MasterCard Index report, it indicated that we have 27% of female entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa. And they're heavily supported in their agenda by the private sector actors. But then again, I don't think that there's any woman in Africa or in any home that is going to leave their home to go to the office and the taps are dry, and even the containers for drinking water in the houses are dry. So how about to invest more time and actually more money in ensuring that we have water available for these women first. Then apart from that, I would also be looking
Lucrezia, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be the horrible person that interrupts you in full flow, because everything you just said, trust me, is making the hairs on my neck stand on end and powering me to action. Okay. Let me just say one thing on private sector. What we did was this campaign was about real people. Okay. Like I said, we knew what private sector PSR, we knew what Water Aid, we knew what they were going to say. This was about real people like you. Okay. That's why you didn't hear from them this time. Everything you are saying, we have 1,200 people listening to you. Okay. We will continue this. That's my promise to you. All right. Everything you just said. We are just very badly running out of time. Pedro, I am very sorry. I have to give you 1 minute, if that's okay, to just summarize and reflect on everything you've heard. I'm very sorry to detract from the plan. Pedro, 1 minute, please. Your observations as rapporteur on this discussion.
Bueno, muy rápido.
Very quickly then. This listening exercise fully confirms my priorities as a special rapporteur. I think it's crucial to take on board ethical principles in water management, which allow us to prioritize what I call water for life. We need that in order to ensure the human right to drinking water, and also in order to exercise other human rights. So water is crucial to society. We have to promote participation-based models based on a human rights focus. Water should not be managed, as people have been saying, as a commodity and not open to financial speculation as it would be on the futures market. We need the access to water for the millions of poor people who live next to polluted water sources. We need to address that and to improve the quality of our water sources, rivers as well, which support so many indigenous peoples. And we also have to achieve SDG 6, which means that consequently we have to ensure gender mainstreaming, recognizing women as being powerful, not victims, but as powerful builders of these human rights.
Pedro, thank you so much for that. Organisers, I'm so sorry we've run out of time or run late. Sasha, I hand back to you.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you to the panelists, Rasha, Euphrasia, and Pedro, for sharing your thoughts and for the very insightful listening exercise recognizing women, youth, and their roles in water development. And many thanks for running the outreach digital campaign. As part of the concluding segment, we would like to share with you the announcement of the Stockholm World Water Prize winner. The video announcement of the Water Prize winner will be made by Mr. Tony Holmgren, Executive Director of the Stockholm International Water Institute.
For 30 years, the Stockholm Water Prize has been the most prestigious award for water-related achievements. This year's laureate is one of the most original thinkers in the world of water and has changed the way we understand the role of water. It's a great pleasure for me to announce the winner of Stockholm Water Prize 2021, Sandra Postel.
Sandra Postel is a leading authority on water scarcity and one of the world's greatest water communicators and educators. In 1992, she was among the first to warn about a looming global water crisis. Since then, she has dedicated her life to helping people understand the role of water and to promote the preservation of fresh water. Sandra Postel wants to build true water security, which means meeting human needs while also protecting the health of freshwater ecosystems, especially in the face of climate change. Sandra Postel's unique way of communicating about the water that is all around us, in our clothes, on our plates, has helped develop how we see water.
Receiving the Stockholm Water Prize to me is really the professional honor of a lifetime. I feel both incredibly humbled and very, very grateful to receive this affirmation that my work has made a contribution to achieving a more water secure world. And of course, we never stand alone in these moments. I feel also incredibly grateful for all the colleagues I've had the pleasure and honor of working with over these years. In many ways, water chose me. I had known since I was a teenager that I wanted to do something on behalf of the earth with my life. Water is the basis of life, and there are no substitutes for it. There's nothing more fundamental we can say about water and water's value than that it is the basis of life. And I think sometimes our water management doesn't sufficiently reflect that fundamental value of water, that it is the basis of life. And I think going forward, aligning our policies and practices with that fundamental value is our biggest challenge. For me, making change in the world meant finding my niche. And I think it's important to keep looking and exploring until we each find that niche where our passion and our skills come together to make a contribution.
Sandra Postel has made invaluable contributions to our understanding of water and thereby our ability to shape a sustainable future. She will be awarded the Stockholm Water Prize on 25th of August at the World Water Week. This year, the week will focus on building resilience faster through water. I hope to see you there, the final week of August. Thank you.
I congratulate Ms. Sandra Postel, the winner of the Stockholm World Water Prize, and thanks to Mr. Holmgren. I now invite Ms. Maria Elena Semedo, Deputy Director General of the UN FAO, for her closing remarks. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you, Sasha, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Let me start by wishing you a happy World Water Day and thank all of you. I could see that we had more than 1,300 participants throughout the event, showing the importance and the connection we have all around the world to celebrate this important day. And in today's celebration, we had heard voices echoed on the centrality of water for life and for our human development. The critical importance of the SDG 6 was and must be underscored. Our changing climate, inefficient use of natural resources, the absence of treatment and reuse of wastewater, as well as mismanagement and wasteful consumption and production patterns, results in considerable water wastage. And it has said that we cannot waste water as being an important public good and not a commodity. Moreover, the lack of clean water and sanitation claims more lives through illness today than any armed conflict. And this shows the importance of water. We have witnesses through the COVID-19 pandemic that clean water is crucial in containing the spread of infectious diseases. The public made the call that protecting water is everyone's responsibility. And let me keep some of what I heard from the public call and from our panelists. And what was said, water is life. The Holiness told us that water is a basic and universal human right, and there is no food without water. Water is everything. The Vice President told us that water is the milk of our Mother Earth. Water is important for peace. We have the examples of Syria. Water is an enabling driving force for all solutions. Making water a commodity will collapse a civilization. Water has a central role in the Sustainable Development Goals, and water is a connector. And I think we heard this, that water connects us. And these are very important to show around the world, the youth, the men, female, what are their perception of importance of water. And also, it was said that water and food security go hand in hand. Smallholder farmers with unreliable access to water risk losing the crops and livestock they depend on for income and food. The food security value of water is high, but rarely quantified. Improving water security for food can contribute to reducing poverty as well as closing the gender gap. And the importance of to have fair access to water resources, guaranteeing access to everyone, was underscored here. And the DG of UNESCO reminds us that without access to water, we lose school days. That girls and women are the more affected by lack of access to water. They have less time to learn, they have less time to read, and they have less time to be informed. But we have also been said that we need the voice of women in leadership. And we don't have enough recognition of the women as agents of change and being part on the decision making. They need to lead, and they can lead to true changes. And I think those are very important when we have of gender gap in water. And also that we need to have youth at the center. We need to have their voice, and for them also to come up with solutions. I would like to thank Michelle for presenting us the World Water Development Report on valuing water, which identified the challenge for the valuation of water across different sectors and perspectives, and identifying ways in which valuation can be promoted as a tool to help improve better management and also achieve the sustainable development. And it has also been said that we need a holistic approach, we need innovation, we need data, and we need related data to social and economic challenge. And we need also to consider the trade-offs, and also a comment that we need to be enlarged to ocean and seas. And what clear stood out was that the solutions to many water challenges involve both personal and political action, and that we need more cooperation. I would like to conclude by highlighting the urgency to accelerate actions to achieve SDG 6. As the largest user of fresh water and as a major source of greenhouse gas emission, the agri-food system must play a central role in addressing water challenge. And the Minister of Senegal told us that we need a change in paradigm, that we need more solidarity, and also we need a better resilience to water. The upcoming Food System Summit will provide us important opportunity to mainstream water under agri-food system transformation by valuing the role of water in producing, supplying, and consuming our food. We in FAO and with all our partners through the UN Water, we stand ready to work closely with the members, with the UN system, with the global partners, the non-state actors to build back better from COVID-19 through transforming agri-food systems and contribute to the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to reach better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. I would like to thank all our speakers. I would like to thank our facilitator, Sasha and Neil. I would also like to thank all the colleagues, Hound, FAO, and the UN Water, the colleagues from UNESCO who contribute to the organization of this very important event. I think it was a wonderful event we had today. Thank you to our special envoy, to all the panelists. Let me not enumerate all of them, but to me what I wanted to say that let's make sure that this celebration is a wake-up call, a collective call towards achieving water and sanitation for all by 2030. And as Hungbo called our attention, we need to go fast, but we need to go together in order to go faster. Thank you again for joining us today. I wish you again a very happy World Water Day.